You've heard it said that storytelling is everything. In fact, the phrase has been around for so long, it's difficult to say who said it first. But what if the reverse is true? What if everything is storytelling? What if every action we take, every word we speak, every thought we think is a story? If so, then we all need to be better storytellers, because the story we tell will determine the impact we make in our lives, in our work, and in our dreams. This isn't just some philosophical hot air. It's a real question, and it deserves an answer. I'm Jonathan Jordan, your storytelling coach, and this is Everything is Storytelling, a podcast for people obsessed with story. So in 2018, I became a book coach without even realizing that was what I was doing. I was just trying to become a book editor, and a couple friends at work asked me to help them with their respective book ideas. One book was a children's book, so I did it for free. It was just kind of a fun starter project. I enjoyed doing it. The next one was a collection of over 50 short memoirs. And so that was my first paid gig as a book coach, and it really opened my eyes to everything involved in publishing a book. So over the following years, as I worked on more books with new topics and even with top tier Silicon Valley CEOs, I made a startling discovery: how even people who are obsessed with story often have too limited a view of what story actually means and what storytelling looks like. I found many aspiring nonfiction authors struggle with seeing themselves as storytellers because they equate storytelling with being an artist. They'll say something like, I'm not a natural storyteller. I'm very process oriented, very scientific in how I solve problems, which showed me that somewhere along the way, we separated art and science, spawning a false belief that you cannot be both artist and scientist. And the problem with this is, well, everything we know from history. So take the pyramids of Egypt. They're both art and science, and religion too, I guess, if you want to throw that in. The Great Wall of China, it's both art and science and defensive military strategy, right? And then look at a guy like Leonardo da Vinci, who was both artist and scientist. When you can see storytelling as equal parts science and art, then you give yourself an infinite number of options for how to tell your story. An engineer tells a story through structural design. A COO tells a story through operational excellence. A data analyst uses metrics to uncover the stories that no one else notices, because everything is storytelling. And I do mean everything. So to take this idea further, the design of a building is a story. The meal that you cook is a story. Your genetics compose a story. Medicine is a story. Your grandmother's garden is a story. A tombstone is a story. And your coffee order this morning, that's also a story. The question is whether the story invites people in or not, whether it's a good story or not. So it's time for a story. One day, a man took his two daughters, Diane and Sharon, for a ride on the merry-go-round at Griffith Park in Los Angeles. As he watched his girls go around and around, he noticed the design of the merry-go-round, how it contained images of the history of the place. The merry-go-round itself was a story inviting people for a ride around history, and in a way to become a part of the history. And I imagine he felt probably a little left out because only children ever rode the merry-go-round. And he wanted to be a part of the story too. And so as he sat there considering this, he let his imagination wander. What if you could create an entire place devoted to this idea of immersive storytelling? a place where story was not just consumed, but actively participated in by children and adults. Well, that man's name was Walt Disney, and he was equal parts artist, scientist, doting father, and businessman. All those parts of himself melded together to form a powerful idea. And on July 17th, 1955, that idea became a reality when he opened Disneyland, despite nearly everyone telling him that it was an idea doomed to fail. Today, the Walt Disney Company has 12 theme parks around the world, plus a thriving cruise line. And all of their success is built around Walt's understanding that everything is storytelling. And if I could have dinner with anyone from history, living or dead, it would be Walt Disney. Because for Walt, storytelling wasn't just the heart of his business, it was the lens through which he made sense of the world. It was the filter through which he could generate hope for himself and then also for audiences. In fact, he once said, "That's what we storytellers do. We restore order with imagination. We instill hope again and again and again." Speaking of Disney, my wife converted me to being a Disney adult back in 2015 when we took our first family trip to Disney World together. And something that never ceases to amaze me is how storytelling is woven into every aspect of the Disney experience. Not only the rides, but also the food, the architecture, even the ground itself. So if you ever visit the Magic Kingdom in Orlando, head on over to Storybook Circus, which is where the Dumbo ride is. Okay. And then look down. You might see little details in the pavement, like peanuts pressed into the ground by Dumbo's feet. That's storytelling. And because everything is storytelling, it gives you more opportunities to transform an idea into impact. You have a wide range of vehicles to choose from to share your story. So, since we live in Texas, going on a Disney trip requires a good amount of planning, whether we're going to Orlando or Anaheim. Now, if we're headed to Orlando, we end up taking a myriad of vehicles, driving our own car to the airport and parking, taking the shuttle up to the terminal, the flight from Dallas to Orlando. The MCO airport has this train that you have to take from the terminal up to baggage claim. And then from there, we're either jumping on a bus that we chartered or a Lyft or Uber, something like that, so that we can get from the airport to the resort. Oh, yeah. And then once we're at the resort, depending on which park we're headed to first, we'll take a bus, a minivan, which is a type of Lyft vehicle they have there that has like many polka dots all over it. Once again, storytelling is actually in the design of the vehicle. We'll take the monorail, the Skyliner, something like that to get from the resort to the park. So that's a lot. But do you see how many vehicles that we needed to complete the journey? So it's similar with your story. Because as a storyteller, you're taking your audience on a journey, and you're going to need more than one vehicle. And so we'll be discussing this more throughout the show. But the vehicles that you use could include personal anecdotes, case studies, sharing about a mistake that you made, short, relatable examples, a problem that you solved, talking about someone who you admire, an analogy, a speculative story. So that's when you say something like, "Hey, imagine this," and you're placing someone into a situation they've never been in. It could be a picture you saw, like a meme, right? Think about how those tell a story. It could be an eye-catching brochure that someone receives. It could be even a conversation with a friend. Because storytelling is flexible. You're allowed to use whatever vehicle best fits the situation because everything is storytelling. I'm going to keep saying it. That's the theme around here. So, how you treat others is a story. How you solve problems is a story. How you communicate is a story. How you live and dream and build and breathe is a story. And all of these stories, again, they can be good or they can be bad. So, to write great stories, we need to be better storytellers, which brings us to the heart of this show: learning to see everything as storytelling. Because when we do that, we can be more creative, we can be more intentional, more productive, and we can be more generous. So we can take our ideas, and with the power of story, we can turn them into impact. On this show, storytelling will be the consistent theme. That's the niche, if you will. But we'll be exploring together the infinite possibilities of how you can use storytelling to write a better story for yourself and also for your audience. So sometimes I'll be doing solo episodes like this one. And then other times I'll be doing interview episodes where we'll cover a topic and show how it fits into storytelling. So why me? Well, in short, because I'm obsessed with storytelling, but also because I've been working for over 6 years as a book coach, as I already mentioned, and I've been helping people find their inner storytellers. So I really just see this podcast as another way to keep doing that. Because through their books, through sharing their stories, I've been able to help my clients build businesses, attract clients, book speaking gigs for themselves, even win awards, and develop an audience. So I feel like it's my calling to help spread the gospel of storytelling far and wide, to help people share their stories and to be able to see themselves as storytellers. Because stories, they quite literally can change the world. I believe that. And if you believe it, then it's the right place for you. So make sure that you're subscribed to the show so you don't miss a single episode. And if you've enjoyed this intro episode, then just go ahead and leave a 5-star rating and review. Not for me, but that way you don't have to feel guilty about it later on, right? And also, it's going to help spread the word. It's going to help other people who are obsessed with story find the show. And then, of course, you can obviously tell other story-obsessed people that you know about the show and introduce them to it. Because when we all become better storytellers, then we can make a better world, one story at a time.